Let's try that again, shall we? Good morning. Welcome. This is the Merry Monday Mailcall Show. For those of you who are a little confused, it's been a while since I've done one of these, and so technical difficulties proved to be my bugbear. And yes, I was talking to myself for 15 minutes, which is great. So the show was amazing. So thank you all for joining. But welcome. We probably do have some comments this time. I was wondering why it was really quiet. But yes, we're back. I'm back. Merry Monday Mailcall Show. It's Monday here in Australia. First thing in the morning. I've got a whole host of books to share with you, in particular horror-related books this time around. So yes, the horror of technical difficulties, and now we've got the horror of comic books. So a lot of these were supposed to be here for Halloween, and unfortunately didn't make it in time. And I was debating, do I hold them for next year? And then I went, you know what? I'm going to make a show out of it. We're going to do some more horror. It's still Halloween in my head, so that's fine. So we went with a little bit of, we'll have a lot of horror books to sort of talk through and show with you. And before we get started, though, I wanted to share this with you because this is quite an interesting one. And timing-wise also didn't work because it was announced on Halloween. I'll share the screen with you, and you can have a look at this. So, CGC unleashes their first ever Spooky Awards. Let's get rid of these ads. There you go. Unleashes their first ever Spooky Awards. So this was announced in April of 2025, 4th of April. So for those of you who don't know, CGC run a CGC Registry Set Awards, which they do every year in the middle of the year. And they just recently announced that they would be doing these Spooky Awards in October, announced on the 31st of October, so Halloween. Now, I had no idea about this, didn't even think about it. I do sometimes try and get my sets in order for the big Registry Awards, but didn't even know that this was a thing. But you know, they were offering, they would judge 5 fiendish sets from the entire registry and award them with a Creepshow number 9.8 and a whole host of other CGC goodies that you can see here, as well as a $250 credit. And the deadline was Friday, October the 3rd, 2025, to get your sets in place so the judges could judge them. And the winners will be announced on Halloween. Now, the first I heard about this was I got an email from CGC directly saying, congratulations, you've won. So, yes, they announced the Spooky Awards on Halloween night, and let's just bring that tab up. So then they announced the awards. So the number of award winners. You've got Cheeseboy here with this Friday the 13th set. And you get a link to the sets so you can go and check them out. But the second award winner was one of mine, still only 35 cents, enormous 215 ink, the enormous set that I'd been building back in 2015 through to 2017 when the title was running. It's a short-lived 12-issue title, bit of body horror, a bit of monsters. But yeah, I pretty much got the entire run of the 12-issue run and all the different variants. So it's a pretty, it was a pretty good set putting that together. But great to be recognized. So yeah, I'll be getting that sort of package in the post soon. But alongside that, you get other great sets as well. So Hangman's Joke got this Crow Dead Time. I love that Joe O'Barr signed copy there. That looks absolutely brilliant. A beautiful cover by him, and then awesome stuff. Then you had Dr. Hamidier. I'm sure I'm saying that right. Marvel Zombies set here. Great one there. And then my favorite this is probably one for John and Richard at Bronze and Modern Gods, Casper's Ghostland from 1959 by Bag of Fleas. Look at that. A nice, beautiful set. It's a real mix of different sets. But so happy to be part of the awards. And let's just quickly check out the set itself. Let's share this tab. So you get to see what these registry sets look like And so you can see here, I did a lot of work in terms of pulling this together using the graphics from the book. And there's my Spooky Award at the bottom with all the other set types in there. And you can see here, you get to dig into each of the books. And it was pretty gruesome stuff. There's some really interesting body horror as well. So glad it qualified. Didn't even think that it would be considered. Didn't even know it was happening. So yeah, it's great to see this. And as you can see, I've got all of the books and all the different variants in here. I'll give you some examples of some of this great body horror. Just look at that. Ooh. Some really great covers throughout this entire run from Midi Cheger and other guest artists as well. It was pretty awesome stuff. Got some great little commissions done at the time as well. You can see that one there with the jet fighter. That's awesome. So really enjoyed seeing that and getting that award. So great to be taking part in that. Let's close all these down. How's everyone going with the new display? This is the new StreamYard where I get to see two screens. And if you're on mobile, you'll get to see me in this great little portrait mode. Hello. And it's the normal view on the web. So let's see. And as I say, I apologize if we were late joining. I did enjoy talking to myself for 15 minutes. And with that, I should talk to the chat because I'm sure they're going to have a lot to say. So we have Christina's here. Hello, Christina. How are you? Mod extraordinaire. Lovely to see you. And she's saying hello to everyone as well. Derek is here. Derek was on the other stream. He was the one single commenter. But yes, unfortunately, it seems that something happens with this new display. And so I think it messed up the stream. So I thought I'd gone live, but I actually hadn't gone live at all. We've got Mr. McGroovy. Great to see you. Glad you made it too. Welcome to the show, mate. And welcome to YouTube and your new YouTuber. If everyone hasn't seen Mr. McGroovy's channel yet, I've watched a couple of his shows so far. Get yourself over there, give him a subscribe and a follow, and check out some of the content. It's really quite good. And welcome to the YouTube community, sir. Welcome. A pleasure to have you. And I think we're caught up. We're caught up. That's great. All right, let's get on with these books because we've already wasted 15 minutes talking about other stuff. I'm going to bring up my other camera to the stage, do the old magic, and hopefully that works. So, first book off the mix, which I did talk about in the previous video, but you weren't there. So here we go. This is an Australian copy of Dracula Lives, Newton Comics monthly magazine. I wanted to share this with you because it's, it's not too different, but I did want to give you a sense of what we would get in Australia or what Australians would get back in the day. So you get this great Dracula Lives cover. I think this was on one of the other magazines as well. I think I actually have a poster of this as well somewhere. But this is number 11, Dracula Lives. And as you can see here, it's not in the best of shape. The detached staple here, but these are never in great shape. The paper stock is pretty flimsy, but you can see here you're getting a lot of these Vampire Lives stories that would appear in the Warren magazines that Marvel published at the time. So there's a whole host of these black and white reprints from that title, and it's great to see them. And you get a real good mix of stories, like quite a few decent size. I think it's about 60 pages in total. But you get, what I do like about these is you get to see what these Newton comics would look like. So we've got the Avengers Annual here. So these Newton comics would normally come with a collector's comic and a super poster. But as I say, you get all this great, beautiful Dracula Lives stories. There we've got Spider-Man, the first appearance of Green Goblin advertisement there. And I get a whole number of these. Free poster within that one. And talking of free posters, this one does still have the poster inside it, which is unusual for Newtons. So this is a reprint of the Newton Comics Doctor Strange, Master of the Mystic Arts cover. So really happy to pick that up, and that still be in here, to be honest, because normally they're never normally in here. As I say, continuing the reprints. But where are my advertisements to show you? Because these are the ones that you really want to see. Look at that, Newton Comics Silver Surfer issue 4. Great reprint of that classic John Buscema cover. And so that's a good example. You get these bright, amazing colors. There's a Doctor Strange, Master of the Mystic Arts. And if I'm not mistaken, we should have an advertisement for the Hulk somewhere along here. There you go. And there's the Incredible Hulk on sale at your newsagents now. So there you have it. That is you also could get Marvel on your chest. This is a Black Panther t-shirt, although you can hardly tell. But yeah, great to see these. I'll pick them up whenever I can, even in that condition. These are the ones where I'm not a grade snob, because you don't really see them in great condition. The next one for you, though, is a book, or a couple of books, actually, and these are real books, too. These are by the Marvel Magazine Group. These are The Haunt of Horror. Only 2 of these ever printed, is my understanding. They are paperback books with illustrations throughout. And you can probably see that here. These are in top shape. So you get the odd image, but realistically, these were full-on stories. We've got a nice advertisement there. But occasionally you'd get a nice piece of art within the book. Some great little pieces. But you've got writers like Harlan Ellison in here, Dennis O'Neil, Robert E. Howard, Fritz Lieber's story, The Conjure Wife is the lead in here. But so I thought I'd share these, and the reason why I'm sharing these is that I saw these listed in an advertisement in one of the Marvel comics, and I'd never heard of it. So yeah, these. And then I talked to Charlie Dog in the comments, and Charlie Dog left a nice comment saying, those things are impossible to find. And when someone says that to me, I make it my mission to find them. And so I did manage to find them. In fact, I found 3 copies of Haunt of Horror 2 here. So great to sort of pick them up. I will be giving them a read. They're in really good shape, as you can see. And it's interesting because you still keep those classic ads from the 60s. And what year were these actually printed? Let's have a quick look. 1973. So from 1973. But yeah, just beautiful looking books, great condition, with some really interesting stories and art in here. So yeah, I'll be looking forward to sort of checking these out. But just a nice little piece of, history from Marvel. There's a Walt Simonson sketch there. Look at that. Not a sketch, full-on page. So Walt Simonson from 1973. Advertising on that one. And then you've got, obviously, an advertisement for their monster tiles. If you enjoyed the haunted horror, you may find food for thought in Marvel's new giant-sized comics featuring fear-fraught tales of terror and suspense. Dracula Lives, Monsters Unleashed, Tales of the Zombies, Vampire Tales, and Marvel's first name in illustrated stories, Monster Madness. Never heard of Monster Madness? I will have to dig that one out and find out what that one is, because this is the rabbit hole that I keep going down with these horror books. Is, I'll see something and then I'll have to go and grab it. So these 2, pride of place in the collection. Really, really enjoyed picking those up, and beautiful painted covers to go with those books. I also got an interesting piece. Now, for those of you who know Monsters of Filmland, Marvel did their own version of this, called Monsters of the Movies. Not at all trying to take any credit from Monsters of Filmland. And it was Stan Lee Presents Monsters of the Movies. My understanding is I think this was a 5-issue run from memory. But ultimately, it didn't succeed, and Monsters of Filmland did succeed. But very similar in terms of its concept, just telling these having articles about all of these different stories, and very interesting stuff. All of these different movies, bit of comedy. So they do a lot of these lines where Stan and the team would put, there you go, Out of the Mouths of Ghouls, Special Monsters of the Mooney series bonus, Out of the Mouths of Ghouls by Stan Lee. So Stan Lee would write a whole bunch of scary pictures and put a whole bunch of funny text on it. Cool it, honey. My parents don't believe in mixed marriages. Being pregnant isn't what bugs me. I don't have Blue Cross. Blood, now that's kid stuff. Nowadays, I'm into gasoline. So yeah, 2 pages of Stan just being completely bonkers in terms of putting this stuff together. But no comics material. There is one comic story. The Demon That Devoured Hollywood. Wow. Roy Thomas as writer and Barry Smith, i.e. Barry Windsor Smith, on art. So that's an interesting one. I didn't realize there were actually a story in here as well. So that makes this even better. I would assume that this does not appear anywhere else. But great to see Barry Windsor Smith art there, early Barry Windsor Smith art. And there's the advertisement for the Haunt of Horror. There, the book that you've just seen. And there's some more beautiful Out of the Mouths of Ghouls by Stan Lee. More comedy, horror overlays. What's the big deal? Lots of guys have acne. Dracula ripoffs. So pretty interesting book. Great to see it. King Kong versus Mecha King Kong. But yeah, great to sort of pick that up. I got that from a UK auction, which was a whole bunch of books from the David McCulloch collection. Really, really super high grade. These were a little bit well read and well loved. But yeah, it was great to be able to pick these up. There was a whole bunch of Vampirellas and Eries and Creepies in there, as well as a really high grade set of The Fourth World. So I'll be covering that in a future video. We wanted to share that with you because these were sort of the copies that I were sort of randomly thrown in there, but turned out to be super interesting because I'd never seen a Monsters of the Movies issue and didn't realize that obviously Stan Lee had created this. I don't think there's any cartoon or any strip in this one. We'll just have a quick check through. We've got a bit of Captain America in there, which is a bit weird. But yeah, articles on movies, monsters, you name it. We got, I think that's a Ray Harryhausen. No, not a Ray Harryhausen. Young Frankenstein. A bit on that. Got a Rico Revel, Art of Frankenstein, and one. What else do we have here? No comic strip for this one. But yeah, again, short-lived title. Just fun to be able to pick this up and have it in the collection just as a sort of little addition to the mix. But yes, Marvel trying to emulate the success of Monsters of Filmland with those. Another one that I picked up, talking about the Marvel monthlies, was Monsters Unleashed. This is issue 8. Love these Marvel Monster Group labels there. They're always fantastic to see. This is Monsters Unleashed issue 8. These were different because they were all comic strips. So great to see those. So let's just see who else we have in the mix. I have just noticed a few more comments coming in. So on the full stream side, Dave, is that printed in the US or the UK? Are you talking about the Haunt of Horror? I assume these are all US except for the Australian print at the beginning. They're all US printed. There's no UK pricing on these. So these are all like they're from the UK, but they're essentially the US books that we're looking at now. And welcome to the show. It's good to see you. We've got Kilted Corgis here too. Good to see you. Welcome to the show. Awesome stuff. So yeah, the horror monster stuff is great to have. As I say, whenever I see it, it goes under the radar at these auctions as well. The vast majority of, everyone goes for the normal keys, but this stuff generally tends to not get picked up that often. But I just love grabbing them. Look at this. Look at that there. So Doug Mensch story with beautiful art by Val Marek. It's absolutely stunning. Frankenstein 1974. Just look at that. So I love just picking these up whenever I can, just to sort of get a read through. And again, the beauty of these issues is that the magazine format wasn't subject to the Comics Code Authority, so they could be a bit more experimental and a bit more risque with the stories in what they would do. So that's why I love picking these up, because they're a little bit more loose in terms of the story, what they can do. And there we have another beautiful Man-Thing there, with art by Pat Broderick and Al Milgrom, story by Steve Gerber. Text story, so we got a nice picture there, but then a text story by Steve Gerber, with some images, a bit more articles on movies, and then we have One Hungers. So story by Neil Adams, art by Neil Adams and Dan Adkins. So a Neil Adams story here with art by Neil Adams. So again, you'll find some real treasures in these books that most people just either don't know about, haven't thought about, but it's just great seeing them. And you get a whole host of really interesting stories and artists back in their early days. And talking of that, yeah, I agree. Nice artwork. Yeah, it's fabulous. And then you've got another one here. So plot by Tony Isabella, script by Doug Mensch, and art by young George Perez, Duffy Voland, and Rich Buckler. And I've seen that before, that image. So again, this is a classic George Perez image that has been recreated somewhere else that I recall seeing. But yeah, that's the original time that this appeared. So again, great to see George Perez art in this book, and a weird story to go in a copy of Monsters Unleashed, but nevertheless fun stuff. Great, just wonderful looking through these old magazines, right? Because you get things like this three-dimensional Marvel action, superheroes action scenes, get the Mego toys, you name it. Some great bits and pieces. Monsters Unleashed, you get Wendigo. The Wendigo's in there, Frankenstein Monster and Man-Thing, and then an advertisement for the... There's Monsters Unleashed. And to close us out, oh no, I've got a couple more for the magazine. Oh, I've got more magazine horror for you. Let's check this one out. Haunt of Horror, number 2. So, there you go. The comic or the book made the jump to the magazine format. So, there you have it. Wonderful stuff here. So, Haunt of Horror, issue 2. Roy Thomas is the editor. Marv Wolfman as the associate editor. Editorial staff. We've got Doug Mensch story, Billy Graham art. Just love checking through these. They're just so good. Very, very different stories. And as you can see, very graphic in terms of what they could actually do. So some article on The Exorcist there. The Hint of Horror. It's a sort of hybrid of the two books. And then we got Doug Mensch writing Grandma Died Last Year with Gene Colan and Frank Chiramonte art. Just look at this. It's brilliant, brilliant stuff. I just love being able to pick these up. Pablo Marcus art there. A Satana prose feature adapted by Jerry Conway from his script. Awesome. Nice appearance of Satana. And then the last story, Satana again, the Devil's Daughter. Who's the artist on this one? Jerry Conway and Romario on art. Oh, a little bit saucy. But yeah, again, fabulous stuff. Great to be able to pick this up and see. Beautiful. Decent condition as well, as you can say. Some of them are a little bit loose in terms of condition. That one's in particularly good shape. Next, got another, but this is not the title. This is actually Marvel Preview issue 12 with this great Lilith, daughter of Dracula cover, issue 12. Beautiful Haunt of Horror. This was part of the Marvel Preview piece. I've got a whole set of Marvel previews I'm going to be sharing with you soon. But for now, let's go through this one. So this is obviously the launch of Haunt of Horror before it became a full magazine. But this is script by Steve Gerber, art by George Perez and Pablo Marcos. And here we are. So that's the George Perez piece. A little bit of a story of Lilith, daughter of Dracula. And then another Lilith story by Steve Gerber, art by Bob Brown and Frank Springer. So great looking stuff. Just love these. I mean, again, it's so unusual to see them, but I just love having them in the collection and reading through them. I'm looking forward to sort of digging these and checking them out in the next couple of weeks. Love these ads as well. Check out this one. Double Dynamite. 2 Titanic tales to blow you away. The Hulk, Night of the Soul Eater, and the macabre Man-Thing Beyond the Great Divide. So Doug Mensch story for the Hulk and a Steve Gerber story for Man-Thing with Jim Starlin on art. So I need to pick this one up. Rampage, the Rampaging Hulk. We'll be going to grab that. But just look at that ad. Absolutely brilliant. A bit more of the stories. So we've obviously reached the end of that. Let me see. Got another one. David Kraft, Death of the Living Dead. Bob Brown and Pablo Marcos on art. Great little advertisement for all of the Marvel magazines that were running at the time. Rampaging Hulk, Savage Sword of Conan, Crazy, and the Marvel Preview Haunt of Horror, the said book that is in your hand. Then we get a Doug mentioned Sonny Trinidad Dracula, Lord of the Vampire story. Look at that. Fabulous art there. Looking at love that. And again, just underrated, these books. Just love them so much. They're very, very cool and always a pleasure to check out. Stan Lee presents The UFO Connection, a trip into total terror by David Kraft and Herb Trimpe in the next issue of Marvel Preview. So we'll cover that. I will be sharing a whole bunch of stuff from the Marvel Preview series that came in recently. But yeah, this is the magazine sets. But there is one last couple of magazines I want to share with you, which I'm sure you'll find very interesting. And again, we're in this lot from the David McCulloch collection. This is Devilina. I've been putting this to the wrong side. You can't really see what I'm talking about. This is Devilina, issue 1. I also have a copy of Devilina issue 2. There are only 2 issues of this. This is from AEST Comics. This is their attempt at, I think you can guess, Vampirella. Anyone? Obviously, seeing the success of the Marvel magazines and obviously the Warren magazines, including Vampirella, Martin Goodwin, decided to publish this magazine alongside the short-lived comic AEST Comics that he did at the time as well, and launched this magazine with a whole bunch of different stories. So Rick Estrada doing Satan's Domain. So this is the first introduction, is my understanding, of Devilina herself. But some really good stories in here, interesting stories. But again, very, very short-lived. As I say, I only had 2 issues. There you go. There's the Atlas Comics. We'll bring that into the shot. Atlas Comics, 21 action-packed full-color comics on sale now from the new House of Ideas. So for those of you who don't know, Martin Goodwin had sold Marvel at that point to the new company that owned it, and left, and then set up Atlas Comics on his own because he was annoyed that his son Chip hadn't been given the role. So yeah, there's a whole sort of history behind Atlas Comics. As I say, very, very short-lived. Interestingly here, Dominic Fortune, Howard Chaykin, in a sort of prototype format before the character we know and love. But it's just great going through this, seeing what could have been. But yeah, there were some interesting little bits and pieces in here. Nothing from anyone you'd recognize, but nonetheless some fascinating stories, and didn't do very well as it only lasted that 2 issues. And even the artwork was reused on, I think, a Heavy Metal or something at some point. So they just rehashed a whole bunch of stuff. There's Devilina issue 2, Devilina herself. As you can see here, I mean, just interesting to be able to pick this up and check out what, as I say, what could have been. Nothing too dramatic in here, but a whole bunch of interesting stories. Looking forward to reading. And interestingly, no credits that I can see on these pages, perhaps at the front. Yeah, no credits, it would seem, for these stories, which is very interesting indeed. You would expect to see, I mean, a cover, an article on Flesh Gordon. Excellent stuff. For those of you who know what Flesh Gordon is, then yes, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, it played up very much to that sort of sexy side. But I am disappointed to see that there is no credits for these artists in this book, which is very unusual. But yeah, that's Devilina issue 2. As I say, I thought it was a bit interesting one to share with you all, because I'd never seen that, and thought, you know, I was going to just put them up, but then when I checked them on eBay, they do have some value too. So very hard to find, not a usual book for everyone. So yeah, I thought that would be a good one. They look good in black and white. They do. I do agree. I think the black and white art is fascinating stuff. But then we get completely opposite of black and white art. We get this. The Thing from Another World from Darkhorse. So this is the full 4-issue set. I've been meaning to get this for a little while. This picks up at the end of the Thing movie by John Carpenter, licensed for our friends at Darkhorse, and some pretty great looking covers for this. So I had to pick it up when I saw it up for grabs. I think I picked it up for, let me just check. I think I picked it up for $40 off West Coast Avengers. He had the whole set. So I thought I needed to pick this up. But look at that. Great to see. You know, this is where full color artwork works, and works really well. That's beautiful, beautiful stuff. But great to be able to pick that up as well. Been looking forward to giving that a read and seeing where the story goes. I'd sort of read a synopsis of this, but never had the books. Let's have a quick look on the interior art for you. And so they're in tip-top shape, as could be expected from Dave. So not painted art on the interior, but you get half-decent story. And I think it follows McCready. This is like, I think this might be the second story post the post the actual Thing movie. I think this is the second story. There's 2 sets, in my understanding, of the stories from Thing from Another World. So looking forward to giving that a read. So that's good. And it's not the first Thing that I have to share with you today. I've also got my Man Thing here too. So we've got a Man Thing issue 3. It's a whole bunch of things to share with you. So this one is the first full colour in issue 3. I picked this up from Dave and Rachel at Future Past Vintage Collectibles. Usual stuff in terms of really great looking. Now, my understanding is this is Steve Gerber story with Val Marek on art, as you can see here. And here is your first full killer. Here he is. I'll bring that into the shot for those of you that are on the phone. We'll have to get used to this, but yeah, there's the first full killer. And as John was saying, the title, he's very right in terms of, as I've come to realize, very much Gerber was just using it as social commentary in certain instances. So it was more like a horror anthology throughout. This one was from John at Bronze and Modern Gods. He had this up for grabs, so I picked this one up. So number 3 as well, Steve Gerber on writing duties. Bit of full killer there. But yeah, another one, another beautiful condition, great looking book from John. So enjoyed picking that up. So there's another one of my horror pieces for you. So I'll put that to one side. And it wouldn't be a Thing without some Swamp Thing. So here's some more Swamp Thing. So this is Swamp Thing issue 16. From the, so this is the funny one, because then there's also issue 11 of Saga of the Swamp Thing, the relaunch title, pre-Alan Moore issue 19. So great to be able to pick those up and have them. I certainly am looking forward to reading issue 16 from the first Swamp Thing run. And love that cover. Absolutely beautiful looking cover there. Let's try and get my wrinkly bag out of the way for you. And there are a couple of others that I did have to share with you. I will save these 3. So my first one is the Tomb of Dracula, number 17, Dracula on a Train. See, Mummy, there's the nice man I told you about. He said he wanted to meet you and suck your blood. Great high grade copy this. Super happy to pick this one up. I do already have this, but again, this is from Dave and Rachel from Future Past Vintage Collectibles and in beautiful shape, so had to pick it up. Marv Wolfman on script, Gene Colan on pencils as ever, and there's a nice little appearance of Blade there for you. I just love picking these up whenever I can. High grade Tomb of Dracula to go into the collection. But my favorite pickup, which I couldn't wait to share with you, are these 2. I'll pull this one off. I won't reveal. Chamber of Darkness and Tower of Shadows number 1. Now, reason why I picked this up, super high grade copy of Chamber of Darkness, which I got from Dave at West Coast Dave Engers, with this beautiful Bernie Wrightson cover. Story, I believe that's Steve Ditko reprints on the interior. So it's a reprint title. So you've got Stanley, reprint title of all the classic old Marvel stories. but with this brand new Bernie Wrightson cover. So super happy to pick that up. Just a beautiful looking copy, as you can see. So that will be going pride of place in the collection. But my favorite of the day has got to be this one, which I've been looking for a while. This is issue 1 of the Tower of Shadows. So for those of you who don't know, this is a beautiful story by Jim Steranko, called At the Stroke of Midnight. So edited by Stan Lee, but written and drawn by Steranko in a style that only Steranko could do. So absolutely needed to pick this one up. This is, I think, the last published work from Steranko at Marvel, from memory, in terms of actual full story. I think editorially, the original cover for this was going to be very, very different. This is a Romita cover, but originally Steranko had done the cover for it, and it got rejected. So he wasn't very happy about that. But the story itself, again, usual beautiful stuff from Steranko. Just very different panels in terms of how he'd pull this together. And you can tell, beautiful art. He really sort of labored over this. Beautiful story. But it's just absolutely fabulous to see this great Jim Steranko story in this title. So it was all that new stories. I think for the first 2 issues from memory, they had new stories in the interior here. So you got Artie Simic on lettering and Johnny Craig, writer and artist, on this one. So yeah, they only very short-lived in terms of creating new stories. And then they switched back to reprints. And a short-lived title in its own, but great to be able to pick this one up. Stan Lee and John Buscema's story here. Wonderful, wonderful stuff. Just a great book to end on as well, because, as I say, don't see these very often, and I've been looking for this for a while to finish off my Steranko collection. Not many titles for Jim Steranko in Marvel. Very, very, very legendary artist and writer, but just not very prolific in terms of actual material. Like as I say, he was too busy doing other stuff. Love this advertisement as well that we've got in here for Marvel's inflatable plastic pillows. Not sure any of those would have survived, but nevertheless, fantastic book to end on. Thank you all so much for joining today. And with that, I will see you all very soon. Take care of yourselves.